All right. Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Group IB Africa Fraud Day. I'm hoping that some more people will filter in the next couple of minutes. I know we all tend to overbook our days and end up running from one meeting to the next. So, yes, but thank you very much for those of you that have attended. My name is Christian Jurison. I am the Africa Business Development Manager for Group IB. I think I've probably had dealings with all of you that are in attendance so far. I just want to make say a couple of words around the West African market and most importantly, the kind of impression that I have in working with the West African regions in the last little while. I've been most impressed with the resilience and the vibrancy displayed by the West African region, particularly Nigeria and Ghana, displayed in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I must say that this region most certainly has been displaying the most sort of resilience in the face of it, and also showing, or should I say rather, keeping me the busiest out of all the African regions. So it's a great pleasure to be working with all of you, and I'm really looking forward to going from strength to strength. I'm happy to be conducting business in the region with everybody. And I think I speak for everyone in Group IB when I say we're very much looking forward to conducting more investigations and working on a lot more engagements with everybody. And most certainly, we're looking forward to actually coming through and spending time in the regions and finally getting to shake some hands and meeting face to face with a number of you that are now engaging with us and involved with us. So just to introduce the team, once again, I think most of you have actually dealt with and spoken to and been involved with the team. Obviously, Tim Bobak is the director of EMEA and has helped us on a number of engagements and is very actively involved in the region. He will take us through an overview of the African threat landscape and a basic introduction to Group IB. Following up to that will be Andrew Parshan, who is in the international pre-sales team, and he will take us through a lot more of a technical overview of threats and fraud, and with particular reference to banking cases.
So yeah, the main agenda here is the most fraud cases that you may face during the COVID time and after it. Of course, it's really hard to say, and it's really hard to understand the real harm that might be than being executed onto your site during this time, because everyone from the fraudsters' perspective just get more active. They get a lot of infrastructure. They trying to do this spreading into the phishing sites. And during this time, for example, it's really vital to understand how your customers, for example, might face those kind of fraudulent activity and fraudulent schemes. So please wait for 1 minute. Yep.
Hi guys, can you now hear me?
Hi Tim, yeah, we can.
Good morning everyone. Thank you very much for your patience. I was making some attempts in order to get my web conferencing system sorted. Now it appears to be clarified. So building on Andrew's points, and also Chris's, really from our perspective, we're focusing in on, at Group IB, various different aspects of cybercrime and cybersecurity. Now, we focus in on our journey, starting off in digital forensics, incident response. We've seen the full range of different cyber attacks happening. And since establishing our CERT in 2011, becoming a member of First and Trusted Introducer in 2013, and dealing with these phishing kind of attacks that Andrew is mentioning, we've seen the full range of different kinds of incidents that take place. You can have a banking incident where money is stolen from ATMs. You can have a crypto locking incident where endpoints or databases and data is encrypted and locked. You can have cases where there is direct fraud happening against customers. The entire threat landscape is now becoming extremely broad, and this goes to the same for West Africa. The types of attacks that we're seeing in West Africa are similar to the attacks that we are seeing at a global level. The time difference and in terms of the delay versus a kind of attack that we would see, for example, in, let's say, Western Europe or the Russian Federation or the Middle East, is very small. It's no longer a case where the TTPs, the tactics, the types of attacks that were being used in, in years gone by, so 2-3 years ago, would take a year to come through onto the African continent. It's now very much that everyone is in the same boat and facing the same threats. So on today's call, Andrew will be talking through specific to the fraud side, specific to the types of attacks that are now going to be faced by organizations and their customers in 2020, what's happening right now at the cutting edge of cybercrime that we're seeing from our global research, and how your organizations or your the organizations that you protect as security integrators and managed service providers, how you guys can leverage different techniques, different security best practices in order to then defend these organizations more efficiently. So that's going to be the focus for today's call. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Andrew, who can provide a deeper dive and go through both our agenda and the planned topics of discussion on today's call.
And yes, the fraud that customers may face during and after the lockdown, as mentioned, everyone is right now is concerned about their privacy. Everyone who is locked into their houses, trying to reach out food, for example, by delivery services, or trying to do all banking stuff from without any visiting to the offices, for example. So that's why the digital channel is widely used right now. And not only right now, you must understand that everyone is trying to do all these things from in a convenient way. So the most convenient way is to use that without leaving the houses. But what are the numbers of compromised data or accounts of the users? So we did a bit of research. Here is some statistics upon the compromised cards and accounts related and the compromised data related to the Africa continent itself. So as you may see here, the worldwide statistics says that at the 2018 year, there was more than 10 million compromised cards, with a part of 185,000 of cards compromised from Africa continent, and it's growing up. It doesn't tend to decrease. Right now, at this time, you can see that the compromised accounts might be not so high at their rates, but obviously it's because only 8 months just passed, and right now you can't and you could heard about some of the leaks, for example, but with those accounts that right now currently available in open sources, let's say, it's 25,000, and it's only the start of that. So just imagine like how many they will become. And you must understand, like, it's not just the numbers. You must understand that each of this card is bonded with the real person who can lose their money. And if we just check out the numbers of that, you can see that there are more than or almost 350,000 of cards were compromised during this year. And just imagine that might be some city with the citizens of number 300, and it will be really big city, you know. So just imagine that there is some city that everyone inside it has his his cards were stolen. So it's kind of harsh numbers. So you must understand, like, it's not gathered from only the dark web sources. There was an emergence of GS sniffers, there was the banking trojans, there was a lot of harms and possible ways to compromise those kind of data. And what is the types of the possible fraudulent actions? So of course you must understand like this, there is the channels for attacks, so such so-called smishing, phishing, so that's related to the mobile users. When you got some call from the bank, for example, and then someone trying to convince you to install third-party software, for example, or just follow the link and so on. So basically, when someone during this hard time trying to get some money and trying to sell something into the open site for doing that, he will then pass his telephone number right into the open website where someone can catch that, and then bombing with the calls, with the SMSs, or just trying to dig upon your identity, for example. So channels for the attacks are still aren't going to an end, for example, because there are also and there are always such kind of sufficient attacks that might face your customers. So fraud can be spread via social network or messengers. Of course, you heard about the stories that someone tried to use the deep AI, for example, to create the image of some VIP or some celebrity to offer you something, to offer you gifts, to offer your monies. And there are a lot of those cases when the poor victims will be victimized by those celebrities, you know. So the phishing from the email is still the dominant one. There are a lot of phishing emails are coming worldwide. So there is no surprises that it's still used by the criminals to gather or to get to their goal. So from website, it always like a phishing danger that you might catch. So for example, such as mentioned, such sites as for delivery, for example, we in our country we found more than 200 of domain names impersonating the real services, trying to convince the people to pass the money, to order some food, to order some services, while simultaneously getting the credentials of the user. So from the banking platforms, always there are like different channels, of course. The mobile applications, the mobile device of a user, of course, is used in those kind of attacks. The online web banking pages and corporate banking pages are still used by the users. And of course, you must understand, like, not having the access to these accounts from, or accessing these accounts from their homes, for example, it might be an additional point of compromisation. And you might understand, like, if your accountant just came to the house for remote working and he has to pay some bills, for example, if he has his device compromised, all this data can be then passed to the malicious hands of the fraudster. So not only that matters, because always there are the Android application, iOS application that might be used by the fraudsters to convince, not to convince, but to execute, to exploit that some of the vulnerabilities, for example, the Gustav Trojan, or yeah, there is a lot of them, the AndyBot, and yeah, so you can just count them. So, and you will get the full list of the malware that is still like active during this time. And as someone is trying to use the buzzwords such as COVID, for example, trying to convince people to install their software or third-party applications onto the mobile device as well. So the goals for that the goals of a fraudster are always the same, like to steal the money, to steal the data, to then enrich the sources, or to then sell it within the dark web forum, for example. So that's not the only way how the data of the victims might be used there. So yeah, another goal is to infect victims' device with banking trojans or with any like botnet activity, not activity, but yeah, but the tool that will then create a device that will then do the DOS attacks, for example, or just being like hidden. The Trojan will be hidden into the mobile device of a user till it reaches his goal. For example, the banking application will be installed, and then it will be automatically like forwarding all the credentials, or automatically fill the fields of a banking application, for example, to transfer the money and so on, to intercept the SMS codes as mentioned by the Gustav, for example. So there's a lot of like goals that might be as an additional like source of the fraudulent actions, and I think that you are familiar with it. So the instruments that we're using are still the same. So all variety of phishing websites impersonating the banks, impersonating the services, the delivery, I don't know. I don't think there are some sites who hadn't been phished, for example. So the malware, such as the banking trojans, the forwarder SMS application, or just malicious ones, or if you know, like a lot of web fakes are selling right now into the dark web. So if you just have this opportunity to have a visibility over that, you will be really surprised when you understand like how little money it costs, how everyone can do that, and to present harm for your users. So massive spam advertising was mentioned in the channels of the attack, dark forums, when the fraudsters just wanted to sell all those exfiltrated data, for example, or stolen data, compromised one. So, for example, you can like check the statistic that in average, that one credit card will cost for $0.5 for each. So that might lead for massive fraud when you buy those cards and then automate your activity to then getting the access to all those data or money. And the human trust, yes, as an instrument always is used as well. So that this kind of attack will, this kind of thing will will linger and will stay with us for an infinite time, I guess. So also, not only the mobile trojans are really dangerous for you, but also there are the emergence of GS sniffers. We had a nice report upon that, so you could like check it out and understand like the real harm that was done by it. So of course, you know about the Joker Stash, for example, who collect a lot of data, a lot of cards, more than 1.3 billion, if I'm not mistaken with that. So and there are a lot of like JavaScript sniffers families that leads to massive fraud when some CMS vulnerability was used, then the JavaScript was loaded onto the e-commerce page, or even into the man-in-the-middle attack, for example, when the Trojan just trying to steal those data that you wanted to pass to the bank, for example. Main targets are in the USA, but you must understand, like, it's because of the wealth that there is. But obviously, if you can hack the website, you will eventually install the Java sniffer for any site that you have access to. So there was a lot of fine for British Airways for data leaking. And that's another case, like why you should like pay attention to this kind of attacks, why you should you will be then punished not only for from a customer perspective when they lose their let's say experience or even confidence in your services, but also you can be fined for not protecting your customers as well. So what's related to smishing, of course, you must understand that like your phone might be collected at any place in the internet. The internet stores all of the historical information. And of course, if you pass somewhere your phone, for example, or even if you just wrote that in some poll, for example, the public poll, for example, then this data might be leaked for the hands of the criminals to then bombing you with the smishing, such so-called the SMS phishing, when you got the message like, wow, I saw that you're trying to sell some stuff, so could you please like go to the link and provide me some visibility. I don't know, like whether there is some messenger or the phishing site, or there must be a lot of purposes or targets to do that. So then the victim will lead to a phishing site, for example, or to an installation page when you can like download the APK file with the already injected malicious code, for example, or you can like download the the changed version or a customized version of the banking application, or and yeah, there then the fraudster will get those data from you if you will use that. So the web fakes are intended to decrease, but what if the users will get the call, for example, from the bank? It always like the usage of human trust, because everyone is really concerned about their money. Everyone is concerned about their status, for example, or the wealth. So when you got the call from the bank, when the victim got the call from the bank, when the fraudster trying to impersonate the bank employee and then tell you like, oh my gosh, there is some transaction that is done by your account, for example. So was it you or not? The victim just realizing that you may like lose the money. It's really hard to do to collect. It was really hard to collect those money. Why should I just lose that? So they are getting really concerned. They are getting out of attention. Like it must be not the call from a bank. It might be the phishing, for example. But there are like different kind of ways when phishers trying to, or vishers trying to gather those data. So for example, they might ask your customer for providing them to pass the OTP code, for example. So like, wow, we see those that transaction. What if, could you please provide the code that will be sent to you, so we could like understand and be sure that you is you. And after that, when the victim get this kind of code, he will think like, wow, it's the additional authentication step. So okay, I guess that I will pass this code to the bank employee. And yes, that was a code for additional authentication, for example. So basically, that's one of the way how fraudster can get access to the banking account. So the phishing page, I think that you know a lot of them. There are a lot of cases when they are used, for example, in email or social network or in messengers, when someone is hosted the similar looking page, for example, and trying to convince the people to get there and to use the services, for example, like there is a banking page, for example, and you want to go get into the bank, for example, or you might be really concerned about buying some goods and stuff. And when you got into the site, you will see that it's legitimate. It has the same brand. It has the same like visibility, and then you just trying to use that, and you will just passing those credentials right into the hands of a fraudster to then see those being sold onto the dark web forums, or you will lose your money, for example. And as another case, the phishing page via advertisement. So basically, the fraudster trying to use the legitimate services, such as the advertisement from the Google, for example, to then follow or to then deceive the people to buy goods from the phishing sites, and that's kind of increasing type of fraud. So card not present fraud is really similar. Of course, there is the different ways to steal the money using the 3DS page, for example. So when the user trying to, there was a case, so when the user tried to get into the banking account, he's just passing his data. He had a Trojan man in the middle. So he just passing the data. He saw like the URL is the same. Okay, it works. The bank is the same. So yeah, of course, it is legitimate one. So, and while he just passed these credentials, like the banking code with the password, the fraudster will intercept those messages by automatic meaning, do the API call to the bank to call the login function. Then the user will see like the login page, and then the web fake was created and passed to the user. So the user saw like there is the login with the 3DS, with the adaptive authentication, for example, while the fraudster already passed into the banking app because he intercepted like the API call. So the fraudster tried to automatically fill all those fields to transfer the money. The user still see the same picture with the login and adaptive authentication. So he passed the OTP code. He get another one to transfer the money, but he doesn't look at the text of the message. So while the user is still thinking that he is trying to log into the banking account, the fraudster already conducted this payment transfer. So that's kind of really hard thing. From the 3DS purely, there are a lot of cases when the phishing sites write by automatic mean fill all necessary fields and forward victims to those sites. And when you got forwarded from the phishing site to the legitimate 3DS page, you will like think that, oh, okay, it's the legitimate operation, so I should like get my OTP code and then just pass it. So that's how like it's done. Yeah, of course, there is the banking Trojans. There is I can't say like there is a lot of them. There are a lot of variety of them. They can use like the same methods, and there are, as mentioned previously, such kind of those like the Gustav Trojan, like the like the cron, for example. And yeah, sorry, the Gustav is for Android. Yeah, and the cron with the Bootstrap are mostly onto the PCs. So basically, you can like understand how far it may go. So for example, if your accountant just wanted to get some templates, for example, for its work, there was an attack of such type. So the accountant tried to reach the templates from the internet. The site with these templates was hacked, and the decoy Word document with the template and with the macros in that will be then delivered to the accountant site, and the PC malware will then just automatically create the transferring of the funds from the account of the bank. And if it's the corporate banking employee, for example, so all this money might be then transferred to the controlled account. So there was the cron that has fallen, as you may see here, and it was like the real case when the Cron was investigated by us, and then it will lead to put them to the jail. So what's from detection and prevention? Yeah, you know about the types of fraud that was mentioned. And here are some techniques that help us to prevent and to detect those. So at first, it's all based on to the device fingerprinting technique. I think that you know like how it works, like the canvas fingerprints and WebGL fingerprints. Of course, there is like the technical side of this question. So for example, the canvas is an HTML API that used to draw graphics and animations on a web page via scripting, and it is based on the fact that the same canvas image might be rendered differently in different computers. So for a WebGL, it's the same. It renders the 3D object inside your browser that helps us to understand like how it analyze it, because the WebGL from every point has its own like peculiarities. So how it does the anti-aliasing, for example, how does it rendering the image and all of those, that helps us to like understand that this device is doing all those things at one way. And we can then use this information to correlate it and to gather even more data, for example. So not only the canvas in WebGL are collected, because there are a lot of things that are used to track the user. So what's related to behavioral analysis? Of course, you must understand like if the phisher or if the fraudster trying to hit all those or conceal all his activity, it might be really hard to get him caught, for example. But the behavioral analysis will then analyze the patterns of the behavior. So for a fraudster who got the multi-picking actions and got the access to multi-accounts, he will use like the same pattern. Like he want to transfer the money, or he want to obtain a credit to then cash it out from some ways. So basically having the behavioral analysis will help you to deter this kind of fraud, or to understand where it's the legitimate user or not. So the cross-channel analysis, as mentioned, helps us to correlate all this information, not only from the web channel, protecting the web banking application, but also to protect your customers from the mobile applications as well. So all those types like the smishing, phishing, vishing, and even the Trojans that are installed into the end device might be then, all this information might be then correlated and answer for your question, like was this transaction conducted by the legitimate user or by some malicious actions? So from the bot detection and blocking mitigation, let's say that we have like the strong expertise in understanding the cyber criminals, their botnets, how bot does work, and that helps us to use that knowledge into our detection and prevention capabilities. And having like those, you can block the detection. You can deduce that it's similar to bot activity to then prevent the possible harm or to halt this kind of fraudulent actions. So the global user profiling will be then covered by additional cases that we have. So basically, it helps us to deter the fraud within, or let's say worldwide. So if we have like those kind of information that some device was connected with some fraud, we then can provide some visibility over this device, and in case of emergence of it in the banking page, for example, or into the e-commerce, we then will be able to prevent this. So we will provide like the verdict upon that. So the client and malware detection was mentioned, and it was done through our forensic investigation. We do have our reverse engineering team who is trying to who is actually reverse engineering the banking Trojans and help us to see whether there is some patterns into their web inject to like determine them and to catch them. So yeah, you have like to understand, to have all this visibility, you must use not only the transaction anti-fraud solutions, because they are not enough, unfortunately. But yeah, fortunately. So because you have like to see the context of it. You have to see the context of transactions. You have to see the context of your devices and of your users. So that's why it's really vital and important to integrate your solution with to be easily integrated with any kind of solutions. So as an additional like information related to detection and prevention, here you can see like that we can not only like having these capabilities, we can not only to detect and to prevent the possible harm, but also we also can use that into the cost optimization, for example. So, for example, having like this visibility and being sure that this user is your user, you can then pass the additional authentication steps, for example, decreasing the customer friction and improve their experience, for example. So, yeah, there was another case like when we, yeah, that was already mentioned, like Kron has fallen. And it was a bit of statistics, like how bad it was. Like there was more than 100,000 of dollars were stolen, and average theft was $100. But it's like it might be looking as some not really high numbers. But when you have like the thousands of a customer who, yeah, as in the beginning, there was like more than 300,000 of stolen cards. So just example, like you multiply it by $100. So yeah, there's a lot of money that might be lost. So I guess that we will proceed with the investigation. So basically, we have like different cases that will then be covered. So from my perspective, let me just switch on to the another activity. So please wait for one moment. And then I guess we will start to vote for an additional cases. So for example, we have one moment. So for example, we have like in our agenda 3 options. And I want you to like do some activity. So we will start the polling, like what is the case that you wanted to watch, and if we have enough time, we will try to cover all of them. But yeah, it always depends on to your availability and your interest. So yeah, the poll is starting. The first case is the global fraud hunting. So that's how do we utilize our capabilities of detection and to correlation all this information between different nodes, for example, worldwidely, and how we can prevent the possible fraudulent activity. The 3DS referrers are really the strict one and the solid one, because it will be then when we will go through the real case of 3DS abuse. So there was the fake payment service that was used to deceive the victims to get the owed tax fee, for example, and how it used by the fraudster to manipulate your customers, to pass the data, to pass the money, and how it can be prevented as well. So the last one is the screen sharing or TeamViewer detection. Of course, I already mentioned the cases when the fraudster trying to manipulate your customers, trying to install third-party applications or remote access tools, for example, as well for the mobile perspective. So that's the one that I wanted to look at. or from the PC as well. So basically, having these capabilities to detect such remote access tools, we're able to get them both from the mobile channel and the web channel as well. And of course, yeah, you must understand the possible losses and the techniques that are used by the fraudsters. So let's like wait for a couple of minutes for others to vote. I hope that that there will be like the unambiguous results. So here is the percents that only 46% just voted. I hope that they just had no time, or they are busy with my voice. I don't know, with the understanding of my English. So the most, wow, why you hit the results from me? So the one that won was the remote access tool, the screen sharing, and the TeamViewer usage. The second one was the global fraud hunting. And the last one was the 3DS reference that I'm really, I will be sad a bit about it. So, okay, we got our results. I want just to proceed with some activity and the demo cases. So let me just go to the next point of our agenda. I want to share with you the credentials to the accounts that I will create for you. So let me share my screen for a moment. So I will like create the account with you. So let's go to the register. We have our own like demo environment. I will share it with you as well. So it will be typed into the chat. It's the demo site that is loading our JavaScript and helps us to see all those kind of frauds and to detect all those things. So I will create the user that's called Fraud Day with the capital F and the capital D, Fraud Day 11, without any spaces or special marks. I will duplicate that into the chat. Also, it will be then duplicated into the conferencing tool. So like the call to action or something like that. So right now I'm registering this account. Okay, I am logged in as a Fraud Day 11. So please feel free to go to the sb-demo-site.groupid.com. And if you want to check your device online, we will show you like the capabilities. So like how it works when you firstly enter the site, when you firstly just logged in. Of course, you must understand like there is, as mentioned, there is a bond between the identity and the device itself. So in case if we already know that this device was connected, was linked with some identity, in case of emergence of a new devices that are connected to it as well, we will provide you like the visibility, and we will provide you like the alert that something is going on, that something bad is going on, because whether there is an account that was compromised before, for example, or maybe right now it is right under the attack, for example, or it was sold onto the dark web forum, so that's why it has like the multiple accesses from the fraudster. Let's say you must understand like how it works. So basically, it has like the JavaScript installed onto the website that then will send the data onto the backend, like all the data, not only the connection with the device itself, but also all the clicks, all the moves, for example, all the redirects as well. And here, for example, you can see the usage or the utilizing of scan or port scanning function that help us to understand whether the user has a remote access tool being utilized right now or being used. So that also may lead us to a nice funding, like that someone is trying to use another device or use the victim to gather the data from it. So yeah, that's another cases for this kind. So right now I see some of those who already connected. I will try to. I don't want to show you like there is only few of those who entered already. That's why I want like to create, let's say, how it was. Yeah, let it be more interesting, and we will see how it will go. So, Fraud Day 11, don't forget to do that. I will really appreciate your activity because it's really hard to follow all this like all this agent trying to show you like how it works, and whoopsie, sorry. So and in our like cases, it's really like important to understand like how it works. So I guess that I may proceed with that because I don't want to bother you a lot. I will try to do that as fast as possible. So basically, here how our graphical interface is looking like. So I want to gather like the last 7 days of it, and we'll try to find the last activity. So basically, it looks really smoothly. We have like the sessions related to the identity itself. We have, and more than the alerts or events that are coming from the user perspective, we are able to show you like the whole activity of it. So basically, not only the alerts, but also the user activity, the typing cadence, the IP addresses, the all technical information that we are able to collect. So here, for example, you can see that the user navigates to SV demo site that you can see in the chat. You can see the time zone that was used. You can see the IP address. You can see the user screen. You can see the browser fingerprint, the canvas, and WebGL, both of those. You can see the mouse click. So basically, it's the points of our interest when we are able to gather the behavioral patterns of a user to then see whether there is the similar behavior or the new one. And after I logged in, I copied and pasted the credentials, and the new device appeared. So basically, someone joined. It has like another characteristics that were then correlated with the already known session. So basically, when we just saw the anonymous session, we won't like connect it or anyhow. And basically, after logged in, we see not only the new device, new agent login. That means like the same browser, let's say, but also the new device from the hardware perspective and the WebGL fingerprint as well. So basically, that's the one thing. That's not the that's not the only thing that help us to determine those kind of activity. Basically, we're providing not only this kind of visibility, but also the scoring upon each device, each alert, each event. So the scoring might be customized for each customer. For example, if you base your decision making, for example, based on to the scoring of a session, of a device, and so on. It has the category, it has the status, so basically the channel when it's used. Description with the recommendations like what to do in case if we see any connections from from the malware perspective. So basically, I want to show you like the investigation tool, that is the graphing tool that help us to see all those connections. So after I put down just the identity that was used, we see that it has like different nodes inside the graph itself. It may look a bit like a few of those who already connected to the Secure Bank demo site will appear here. But what if we just try to look at the historical data, for example? So if I press the plus button, oh, there is no connection. Oh, okay. So I will like just leverage or evaluate a bit about what you can see right now. So basically, you can see the browser that is utilizing some IP address to then access the account of a user. It has its own fingerprint. So basically, the data that was collected and then processed. So basically, you can see like the detailed information related to the operating system, when it was firstly seen or lastly seen, what is the platform, what is the number of CPU cores, what is the device fingerprint with the identity that is connected with it, the IP address that was used, identity that was connected with. The global IDs as an additional point of our interest, as well as I mentioned that it can be then used in global fraud hunting. So basically, it's the cookie that is loaded from our site to then, so then we could see like the appearance of the same device within different customers. So we basically inter-customer detection. The device fingerprints, that is the comprehensive fingerprint based on to the device information, such as the canvas fingerprint, WebGL, the renderer, vendor, and fingerprint itself, and the geolocation fingerprint. So basically, we have like a lot of information that then can be used in our advanced rule engine to detect and to prevent the fraud. So I guess that it's really like visible, and it's really useful to understand like how it works. So from the check your device in real time, I will end this stage of our agenda, and in just 3 minutes, I will proceed with another cases that were voted. And that are really interesting for from the fraud perspective and from the real case perspective. So I guess that I'm ready for showing you the real cases that that we can like how we can detect, how we can prevent the fraud. The first case that was voted, that you voted for, was the remote access tool detection, and basically I will provide you like the real experience, let's say. So please wait till I share my screen. I hope that you see it right now. It's the emulated Android device that is used for this case. I will tell you a bit about it. Like, okay, we can emulate the device. We can be integrated in both for Android and iOS platform. And basically, I will go with you through the case of remote access tool detection. So basically, when we have here TeamViewer Quick Support installed with our example of the banking application being installed as well. So it has like the Play Market. It has like the ability to install any APK inside it. So I will start with running the TeamViewer. Here we got the ID. For those who is like concerned, you can even connect to it if you want to. But I won't do that from my side, because the most important thing that having the example application of some bank. So let's say here we have test mobile application. I will use the fraud day 11 as a login. Then I sign in and put the password inside the application. Please don't use the 12345 password anywhere. So basically, I can here like transfer some money. Let it be the Citibank. I want to transfer them. Let it be, I don't know, 7,000 of something. Then I push the transfer. Of course, from the banking application, it always like you have to do additional authentication stuff. For example, you can get the OTP code from the notification or from the SMS from the bank, and so on. So after transferring the money, you will have to proceed with that. You have to yeah, you have to provide the additional steps. So basically, here, for example, we have the banking application being run with the TeamViewer application being launched. So from the Android perspective, as mentioned, we can detect like the applications that are installed. So the suspicious application, we have like the list from our threat intelligence of suspicious application or the web fakes that are used by the fraudster right now currently. And it is the really like important because in this case, I could see not the test mobile bank, but the web fake that has the similar appearance and but different guts, let's say. So everything that I will put down there will be then forwarded to the fraudsters, and this information can be then used or sold onto the dark web forums, or it can be used by automatic means by the fraudsters, because fraudsters are really lazy, and they want to automate all the things. They don't want to spend the time and nights doing the same stuff, doing the same repetitive actions. So that's why it's important for them to automate those things. So I will switch on to the to the graphical interface. Like, how do we see it? How can we detect all those things? So basically, So basically, having this visibility and being implemented onto the side of the mobile application, we're able to detect even more from the device of a user. Not only the fingerprints, not only the Android IDs, but also it always depends on the permissions that were granted for a banking mobile application. So basically here you can see the identity for day 11 that I used as an example. It is the demo environment, so that's why I'm trying to, I just putting the plain text information. Of course, like we have different kind of methods. The users, the customers can pass us the data, the hash data, for example, the hashed by the server side, for example, or we can use the certificate to encrypt the public key to encrypt the message, so the bank could then decrypt it. So here, for example, is the typical events that are gathered from the mobile device perspective. Basically, at first it had anonymous session. It had like side-loaded application, the mobile TeamViewer, as you saw, and basically, we can detect remote access tools not only side-loaded ones, but also like during the access. So if someone is joined, for example, or if someone is trying to use the remote access tool, you can see that thing based onto the pixels that are used into the tabs, for example, because your finger when you use the mobile application will be wider than the pixel that you press onto your mouse trying to control someone's device. So, and that's like how we can cover those things and how we can, whoops, I see that my internet connection is doing well. I guess that you see me right now. It works. Perfect. So here, for example, you can see that from Android perspective, we are able to detect that there is no screen lock. Of course, there is none of that because there is no need to use the screen lock onto your emulated device. So why not? The unknown source download enabled. So basically, it's another sign that you have to pay attention to this device, because it may download some application that is that was modified by the fraudster, for example, containing the decoy code, for example, or being the truly Trojan that will then used by the criminals to intercept SMS codes, for example. And I provided you a lot of like examples how it's why it's bad to have your device being compromised. So we saw the sign-in option. So after I put down the login into the mobile app, and after that we have like the to provide the visibility through the API with the connection to identity. We will then duplicate some kind of events, and always it's like customizable. We can change the behavior. Then we are able to detect whether there was more than one client use the same device, for example. So basically, it is another like sign that you have to pay attention to this device, because multi-beacon action or ATO fraud might be really harmful. And from a mobile perspective, when the customer doesn't have the additional authentication steps, for example, it might be really vital to understand whether there is a device that is used by one user, or this device is used to access multiple accounts, for example, to abuse something, or to use it as in a malicious manner. So, and of course, we are able to detect the emulator that was used. So basically, from Android perspective, it's it might indicate that someone is trying to tamper or to abuse or to modify your application. As well, we have like the ability to see whether there was hash of your application changed. So basically, if the hash changed, we will then no, there's none of it. Okay, so yeah, application has changed. So whether if the user tried to access your mobile application, which hash was changed, that means that he might just download the malicious version of your application that then will use to send the credentials of a customer to some third party or a C2 server of a fraudster. And it can be like really harmful, and it will provide the huge friction, the drastic results for your customers being like compromised. So and also we are able to detect not only the TeamViewer but also the AnyDesk and basically any kind of remote access tool that are used. From iOS perspective, we are able to detect the screen sharing option, because it's not like this. It's not like the legitimate action when the user is utilizing the sharing screen using the banking application. It's not like good. So here is the example of how we can be implemented onto the banking application and to provide those like visibility. And of course, then you could use our investigation for the same manner. So if you are interested, like whether there was some device who is trying to do the multi-beacon actions or some malicious activity, such as the multi-account takeover, for example, you can use that tool that is built in right into the graphical interface of Secure Bank to find those kind of connections, to find those guys who's trying to do their malicious deeds. So here was the example, like how we can extend this kind of visibility. So after I put down like my examples of usage, we could like then extend this kind of visibility to see whether there is some additional links to the additional devices or identities throughout the historical data. So that also might be then used for investigation. So if you saw that someone that new device accessed the account of a legitimate user, you can then extend this period of time that you are looking at and see whether there was any additional activity from the same device. And if there was, so you just bypassed something. So you just missed something, missed the fraud. And this kind of investigation tool will help you with that, and will help you, the anti-fraud departments for the banks or money laundering departments as well. So, for example, if you could see like there is a lot of accounts who, or a set of devices who's trying to connect to one account or to the set of accounts within one office, for example, that might be a truly visualization of potential money laundering case. So this tool, that's why we like included this tool right into the graphical interface of Secure Bank. So I think that for the first case we done. The next one I want to show you is, please let me just check how much time do we have for another thing that I want to point out, like to, oh yeah, there was a fraud hunting. The second like option that we are utilizing to prevent the fraudulent actions. So let me share my screen, and then I will show you like how it works. So I guess that you see my screen right now, and having like this visibility and usage of our tool that is really sufficient and efficient to understand like the possible fraudulent schemes, the connections between different customers as well. So basically, as mentioned, we are utilizing different methods, and to follow the rules, to follow the legislation of some countries, we are able to put the cloud infrastructure within one region or even the country, for example, to store all this data inside it. But if you're looking, or if you are using the region cloud, this data will be like the data regarding the fingerprint, the data regarding the connections and identity, the personalized information, of course, will then be correlated within different customers. So as an example, here you can see like same device that was detected and that was like deduced by the fingerprint was detected within different customers, so inter-customer detection. And this information came from the one cloud. It helped us to understand whether there is, if this fraudster was previously detected at some kind of malicious stuff or in malicious deeds. So, and another case, it's the global ID that I already mentioned and a lot of times. So I don't think that I should elevate a lot of it upon it. But from the perspective of a fraud catching, so from perspective for a hunting for a fraud, these tools are really useful and solid in their for their purpose. So in case if we see like the comprehensive picture like this, when we see a lot of like areas of the activity of a fraudster, we can deduce like there is some attack going for a bank. So right now the attack is going on, and you have like to prevent this. If you saw that at one customer, and then you know like this device was previously used in another customer environment, for example, or just imagine like you have different sites, and like you have to correlate the data between them to understand whether your retail banking are struggling from the bot activity right now, or your corporate banking is struggling from some fraudster who is trying to steal all the money. I don't know. So just imagine that, and here is the example, like how we can deter that, how we can hold this kind of activity. So basically, if we see like there is some activity, potentially fraudulent activity, we will then provide an investigation upon this. So from this example, you can see like the orange, different colors represents different customers. So like for your better understanding. And here you can see like the fingerprint that is really similar to another fingerprint that is connected with another customer environment. And from this like bond, from this similarity, we can deduce that there are the different, the same real device who is trying to do or might be doing the same like behavior or malicious actions onto another customer environment. And like having this kind of visibility, we can higher up the rank or make higher the scoring upon this device, so you could like feed that into your core banking system or transactional anti-fraud to prevent the possible harm. So to prevent the emergence of that kind of picture. So just to stop that multi-picking action and to stop that fraud. So we are utilizing like different methods, and let me use some buzzword for that. So we're using like the machine learning that helps us to build the behavioral model of a customer to then bond this with the identity. So if we see that this identity use the same legitimate device, but it has like another behavior, we then provide you visibility over that through the API and different kind of APIs. So, or we can like build the behavioral model of a fraudster who then process it through the whole data set to see those repetitive actions into the customer or into the different customer if the customer accepted to exchange this data. Of course, it's depersonalized, so no harm is done to the sensitive data. And of course, all of those things, for example, right here, you can see like highlighted icons are basically the cookie or are basically the browsers what was that changed their identity, that changed their appearance, and trying to hide or conceal their their footsteps. So basically, the fingerprint helps us to determine that, to understand like whether there was the same device behind this activity or it's the separate one. So basically, it might be the gang who is working to do this, and maybe right now we know that from the dark website there was a call for action to attack your site, for example, and that might be a gang who is trying to use that, who is trying to compromise or use compromised data to access it, to then cash it out from the bank, for example, or use the money laundering, or use the some kind of loyalty program fraud, for example. So basically, we started to recently we started to see some actions regarding the bank bonuses. So basically, if you have like some kind of, or if your customers have some like cashbacks or any kind of thing that they are using instead of money or for an account, it might be then transferred, for example, or used by the fraudsters, of course. So, and that kind of global hunting feature helps us to prevent all of this, or or to provide this visibility that you face something that you some fraud that you missed. So, from this perspective, of course, like you must understand, like in hunting the fraud globally might be a really harsh case, and it really might be really hard to see those connections, to follow them, to track the cyber criminals, and that's why we are sharing this this capability to find the fraudster, because we want to find them, we want to catch them, and that's our, let's say, goal for that. So we will be really glad to provide such tool for fighting the fraud. So I guess that I covered like how it works, how it can be used for your money laundering, anti-money laundering department, not just money laundering. So I covered the global hunting that we are using. I covered the remote access tool. Whew! And I really like a bit exhausted, but not really. Okay, I'm feeling myself really nice. So the last thing that I wanted you to feel or to fulfill is the second poll that we created, that we want like to hear from your side. What are the fraud, the typical fraud that you faced, and what are the challenges that you faced during your work? So, for example, please share with us your knowledge, share with us your expertise. If you like can do some comments, additional comments, it will be really appreciated. And so yeah, please please fill this questionnaire, fill this poll. And yeah, I guess that I could like hand over to my colleagues to Chris, for example, to provide some farewell words, and to, I don't know, to thank you for your time and for your attendance. So we will wait for a couple of minutes for you to complete this poll. So yeah, please feel free and feel that. We won't use that information in any purposes. We just want to know like what are the types of fraud that you faced, how we can help you, or could it be done through our expertise and throughout our solutions. So yeah, that's the only purpose and the only goal. And yeah, we'll wait for farewell words from the Chris. So Chris, yeah, I see you. Yeah, hello there.
And Timmy, now you can hear me as well. Hi. Andrew, thank you very much. A very informative and very good presentation on a number of use cases. I think we can all see the value in what we face and the struggles that I'm sure a number of you are facing on a daily basis. In particular, I think that we can all agree that cybercrime is on the rise, and we all need to be working together to committing ourselves to ending. And well, not that we will ever, unfortunately, make an end to it, but we can most certainly make a lot of inroads to combating the scourge that is fraud. The African context is very much a unique one that I think we're all aware of the particular challenges that we face within the African landscape. And I believe that the solutions that we've showcased here today will go far to enabling us to combat that a lot further and assisting in the daily struggles, as Andrew says, that we face. Thank you very much for your kind attention as well today. Thank you for joining. We really appreciate it. I think pretty much everybody who is on the call is in direct contact with myself. But please, if you aren't, feel free to reach out to us via the website or via any of your partners that you're currently talking to. And we'll be more than happy to do one-on-one introductions, consultations, and discuss cybercrime in West Africa and further afield. Thank you very much. Andrew, thank you for your time. Again, Kira, thank you very much for setting it up. And thank you very much to all our partners who are assisting us.